الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه الآدون ولا يعد حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الهمم ولا يناله غوث الفتن الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نات موجود ولا وقت معدود ولا أجل ممدود فترى القلائق بقدرته ونشر الرياح برحمته اللهم عف صلة سلواتك وسلامة تسليماتك على أفضل التعينات المفاضة من العماء رباني وآخر التنزلات المضافة إلى نوع الإنساني كان الله ولم يكن معه شيء ثاني محصي لعوالم حضرات الخمس في وجوده وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام المبين الرسول النبي المكي المدني القرشي التحامي صاحب لواء الحمد ومقام المحمود أبي القاسم محمد الحميد صل على محمد وعلى أخيه وابن عمه وخليفته من بعده وقائد الغر المحجلين ياسوب الدين إمام المتقين أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ابنته الطاهرة الحوراء العنسية الراضية المرضية الشفية يوم الجزاء فاطمة الزهراء سلام الله عليها وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من يومنا هذا إلى قيام يوم الدين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألم تر كيف ضرب الله مثلا كلمة طيبة كشجرة طيبة أصلها ثابت وفرعها في السماء تؤتي أكلها كل حين بإذن ربها ويضرب الله الأمثال للناس لعلهم يتذكرون ومثل كلمة خبيثة كشجرة خبيثة اجتثت من فوق الأرض ما لها من قرار يثبت الله الذين آمنوا بالقول الثابت في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. I begin in the name of Allah, the most beneficent and most merciful. I started my talk yesterday by sharing the words of Imam Hussein from the will that he had written to Muhammad Hanafiya, that the Imam says that my movement, my revolution is for the establishment of Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi Anil Munkar. And I have said that Amr bil Ma'ruf means inviting others towards good. Nahi Anil Munkar means refraining others from doing bad. And Imam Hussein not only had written this in his will, but also in his sermon in Mina. Of course, Mina is in Mecca, where we perform the pilgrimage of Hajj. There also, when Imam Hussein gave a sermon, there is a complete sermon that focuses addressing the scholars how important Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi Anil Munkar is. How important it is to invite others towards good and refrain others from bad. You can see it up. Its tafsir was done by Marhum Ayatullah Khomeini Rahmatullah Alayh, and the translation was done by Dr. Hamid Algar of University of UC Berkeley, and it's, I think, on Al-Islam it is there, and it was published in Al-Tawheed, the Islamic journal that used to be published in the past from the holy city of Qom. So I'm not going to touch upon that part of the sermon at all. But Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi Anil Munkar is a very, very important duty. As I have shared with you last night. And this duty also demands all the prerequisites as our other obligations in Furu'e-Deen demand. Similarly, this duty also demands those prerequisites. If those prerequisites are fulfilled, then only you can do Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi Anil Munkar. Otherwise, you are not obligated to do it. How in Hajj, istita'a, affordability, is necessary, absolutely necessary. If you cannot afford to go to Hajj, Allah does not make Hajj an obligation upon you. Why? Because you don't have the money. That is one thing. The other one is means, that you have the means to go to Hajj. And the other one is the security aspect, that you will not be confronted with situations where your life would be in danger. All these aspects have to be met before the Hajj becomes obligatory. And because of last year's massacre in Hajj, where 2,500 people were massacred while they were in the state of Ihram, while they could not even kill a fly, they were trampled because of mismanagement, because of conspiracy, for all the reasons, but that cannot be forgiven. And there was no security for the life of Hujjaj, especially from one nation, and that is the reason they refrained from coming this year, because there was no security. So like that, the preconditions have to be met. The idea that I'm trying to share with you is that if we do not meet the preconditions of different forms of worship, including salat, saum, salat is our namaz, saum is our fasting, then we will not be obligated. And then there are some preconditions which are wajib. For example, for salat, the precondition of wudu is wajib. The ritual ablution that we do by washing ourselves with water, which is called wudu, that is in itself is not wajib, but it is a precondition for salat. Even if you are doing mustahab salat, and the precondition is again wuzu. Without wuzu, you cannot even recite a mustahab salat. So the preconditions have to be met, which are required similarly in Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi Anil Munkar. And if they are not met, then it will not be obligatory upon us. As simple as that. Now, what has happened in the past, or what has been happening, that people try to vent their own anger, people try to undermine others, people try to belittle others, and then, or people try to enforce their will upon others, enforce their idea of what they think Islam is, and wrap it all around into Amr bil Maruf and Nahi Anil Munkar, which is not acceptable. And then I shared some of the ahadith also, and I shared also the verse of Holy Quran where Prophet Dawood and Hazrat Isa, Jesus, had cursed the ulama of Yahud and Nasara for not refraining from not performing Nahi Anil Munkar to their nation, as a result of which their nation got corrupted. So even ulama of Islam, if they do not perform Amr bil Maruf and Nahi Anil Munkar, the consequence would be the same. Why would the consequence be same? Because Islam does not believe in relative values. Islam believes in absolute values. One big difference between Islam and all the other religions or all the other isms that are there, that Islam considers something bad if it is fundamentally bad. And once it is bad, it is not bad. When I do it, it is okay, but when you do it, it is not okay. That is not the case in Islam. Whereas in all other isms, we find that this double standards are maintained in society. So Amr bil Maruf had been misused and abused, and we can also inadvertently do the same mistake unless and until we understand how Amr bil Maruf progresses, what are the stages of Amr bil Maruf, what are the conditions of Amr bil Maruf, and I was sharing some of them yesterday. The fundamental thing is the person should have the knowledge of Ma'ruf and Munkar. The person should know good from bad, meaning that he should have grip, he should have clarity in his thought and his knowledge. Then the person should be influential. The person can influence the change. Also, Amr bil Maruf and Nahi Anil Munkar, it has to be done in present or in future. You cannot do Amr bil Maruf and Nahi Anil Munkar for the past, because the past is already gone. It has to be something that can be implemented in present or in the coming future. And the person who is enforcing it has that influence. If the person has no influence, he does Amr bil Maruf and Nahi Anil Munkar and everybody is laughing at him, that is not the objective of Amr bil Maruf and Nahi Anil Munkar. Then the person should be able to implement it. So he should have the audience. Then other important aspect is he understands his audience. He understands his mukhatib, those whom he is addressing. Without knowing his mukhatib, without knowing the context, without knowing the proper time for engaging into Amr bil Maruf and Nahi Anil Munkar, you can only add misery and you can only add loss. You would not benefit Islam by doing that sort of Amr bil Maruf and Nahi Anil Munkar. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. We also talked about the stages of Amr bil Maruf and Nahi Anil Munkar, as Amirul Mu'mineen says. The first stage is that you reject something in your heart. If there's something wrong, you reject it in your heart, and that is your first stage to freeing yourself from being part of it. But the stage higher than it is not only that you reject, but you also use your words to reject it. And then the third stage is not only you use your words, but you use all the means that are available at your disposal to resist from munkar and enforce ma'aruf. So if these are the stages we have to go through, you cannot do everything in the first stage. And then our sixth Imam also, I shared with you how our sixth Imam mentions how it is not wajib on everyone. And the conditions I have already stated. To keep things brief so I can move forward, I am going a little faster, such that we can cover this topic tonight and complete it, inshallah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Another hadith from our sixth Imam. وَسُعِلَ عَنِ الْحَدِيثِ الَّذِي جَاءَ عَنِ النَّبِي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم إِنَّ أَفْضَلَ الْجِهَادِ كَلِمَةُ عَدْلٍ عِنْدَ إِمَامٍ جَائِرٍ. مَا مَعْنَاهُ. A person comes to our sixth Imam and says, O sixth Imam, I have heard this hadith of Holy Prophet in which the Prophet of Allah says, the best form of struggle and jihad is the righteous word. Kalimatu adlin, the word of justice, the word of truth, haq, being told in front of whom? In front of imamin ja'irin, in front of oppressive leader, in front of oppressive ruler, in front of somebody who is oppressive and who leads, who is in control. Having the courage to speak in front of him the word of truth and the word of righteousness. What is the meaning of this sentence of the Holy Prophet, Ya Imam? This was the question posed to our sixth Imam. The Imam says, Haza ala an ya'murahu ba'da ma'arifatihi wa huwa ma'azalik yaqbalu. The Imam replies, he does Amr bil Maruf after knowing along with the possibility of acceptance. First of all, he needs to know what is Amr bil Maruf. With his knowledge, he has the courage to speak to Imamin Ja'irin, an oppressive ruler, an oppressive leader. He goes and speaks about righteousness, invite him towards righteousness, knowing what righteousness is, such that it would be acceptable. This is the meaning of this hadith. So you see how Amr bil Maruf and Nahi Anil Munkar is. When we become very zealous in trying to do Amr bil Maruf and Nahi Anil Munkar, we only cause more loss than gain. Let me share a story of this person who converts a neighbor, who invites a neighbor into Islam, and his neighbor accepts the message of the Holy Prophet. So he says, okay, now that you have become a Muslim, from tomorrow onwards, I'm going to teach you and I'm going to take you for the ritual worship. He says, okay, so let's meet Salatul Fajr. He said, okay, we'll meet Salatul Fajr. Now, even before Salatul Fajr could come, he knocks at the door of this person. This person gets, he's amazed, who's waking me in the middle of the night? He was expecting this person to come at Salatul Fajr. He says, I'm your neighbor. You remember, you accepted Islam yesterday. He says, yes, I have accepted Islam. So let's go to masjid. He said, but you said Salatul Fajr. Salatul Fajr time has not come yet. He said, yeah, I know, but let us start with Tahajjud, Salatul Layl, the nightly prayers. Let us start from the nightly prayers. So he says, okay, in Murawwat, So he goes with him to the masjid. So even before the Salat of Fajr, the prayer of the morning starts, much before that, they start going and praying midnight prayers, Salatul Layl. And they are engaged in worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until Salatul Fajr time arrives. The moment Salatul Fajr time arrives, of course they finish the Salat. And this person doing this is about to leave. He said, no, you cannot go like this. You just finished Salatul Fajr. Now you need to do all the taqibat and all the mustahabbat. Stay with me. So they say, okay. So he starts doing taqibat and mustahabbat. And now time passes. And now he's about to leave. He says, no, see, we are almost there. Zohar time is almost arriving. We need to get ready for Zohar. And there are these du'as and this and that. So poor guy gets into Salatul Zohar. And likewise, the activity continues all the way up to Salatul Isha. And the next day he comes and knocks the door to wake this guy up and he says, brother, I am not Muslim. You know, I have something else also in life. I have a responsibility of taking care of my children and my family, and I am not. So is this Amr bil Maruf? Is this inviting people towards good? This is the outcome if you don't understand Ma'aruf, if you don't understand what is goodness. This would become the outcome. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. When we look at the verses we were, reflecting upon yesterday about how Hazrat Musa was instructed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah commands Musa to go towards Fir'aun, who's a tyrant ruler, ruthless ruler. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَخَوْلَ لَهُ خَوْلًا لَيَّنًا. O Musa, beware that you speak to him in a very soft tone, in a very soft words. People think if the ruler is tyrant, I am going to go and I am going to become a bigger tyrant and you are going to have an impact. No. If you want to engage in a discourse, even if the person is ignorant, even if the person is arrogant, you have to initiate a discourse where you can have a conversation. If you cannot have a conversation, what kind of ma'aruf, what kind of munkar are you going to teach that person? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching the Prophet how he should be interacting with the worst person on earth, which is Fir'aun at that time. How judgmental we become, how rude we become when we are even trying to be good to somebody. Can you help somebody like that? No. We have grown up, especially in third world countries, being kicked out from getting the spot in Salat, and some of these people who look very pious in their face, but they are very, very angry. You don't know why they are so angry. For what? And they will accuse you for doing this haram and that haram, and suddenly, without really explaining to you the essence of the worship or the whole idea behind it. This is not Amr bil Maruf and Nahi anil Munkar. And then what the kids do, they start making fun of that guy, and right and left, they will make fun of him. So that is not the spirit. The spirit is to ensure that you know what you have to say and you know how to say it, how to convey it. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in these verses, O Musa, make sure that you speak to him in a soft manner. To Firaun, speak in a soft manner, so that he can be reminded and he can take lessons from it, and you can give him that admonition that is required for him. You can wake him from the slumber he is in. You can wake him from the pride and haughtiness of who he thinks he is, thinking himself to be God. He can realize that. But if you defeat the whole purpose for why you are there in the first place, what is the point? There is no point. Now, Hazrat Musa, Musa knows the consequences. Who is he dealing with? He's dealing with Fir'aun, who's the most tyrant person. Musa grew up in the house of Fir'aun. He knows how Fir'aun is, how Pharaoh is, how ruthless Pharaoh is when it comes to his anger, when it comes to his attitude towards those who would oppose his will or his rule. So the verse 45 of this surah says, قَالَ رَبَّنَا إِنَّنَا نَخَافُ أَن يَفْرُطَ عَلَيْنَا أَوْ أَن يَطْغَى. O Allah, the two of them said, our Lord, meaning Musa and his brother Harun, both of them said, our Lord, we are indeed afraid that he will forestall us or will overstep the bounds, meaning that he would turn rebelliously and he would react rebelliously. How should we do? How should we deal? We fear. Nakhafu Rabbana innana nakhafu. We fear the consequences of going and talking to Firaun about what you're telling us. What does Allah say? Allah says, Khala la takhafa innani ma'akuma. Do not be afraid. I am with you both. Allah is saying, I am with you both. I am hearing and I am seeing. So when Allah designates when Allah gives this divine order of guidance of Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi Anil Munkar, who is the protector? Allah is the protector. That's why now you see the context, my dear brothers and sisters, why Imam Hussein had no fear. He had no fear. Because Allah says, when Allah designates this task, Allah is the one who is going to protect. And those who are awliya Allah, inna awliya Allah, la khawfun alayhim wa lahum yahzanun. Quran says, the friends of Allah are such that they do not have any fear, nor do they have any anxiety or huzn. This is how the friends of Allah are. That's why you find Imam Hussein not being fearful when he is confronting the army of Yazid. If there are 25,000 people in front of 100 or 72, as they say, and if they are not fearful, the reason is when they are doing Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi Anil Munkar, Allah is their protector. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And look at the tone, how the tone itself is important, how the attitude is important. Another verse of Holy Quran, Surah Al Imran, verse 159, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking to Rasulullah, to our beloved Prophet, and saying, وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَزًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَأَنْفَزُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. O Prophet, and had you been harsh and hard-hearted, if you had been harsh and hard-hearted, surely they would have scattered from around you. They would have left. So what does it show? The Prophet of Allah was not harsh. The Prophet of Allah was not hard-hearted. Look at today's, muballighin, or at least so-called, Muslims trying to claim that they are inviting people to Islam by saying, brother, what you are doing is kufr. You are going to go to hell. Okay? So you have to follow what I am saying. And even when people enter into their fold, they are so hard-hearted that they do not have any compassion. I gave you the example of hard-heartedness of Khawarij yesterday. And there are many examples. In the interest of time, I am, skipping. On the other hand, look at the seerah of our Masumin. When we look at Imam Hassan alayhi salam meeting a Syrian, a Shami, when he's returning, he does not know that the Imam is the son of Amirul Mu'mineen, and he starts cursing Amirul Mu'mineen, doing SABA on Amirul Mu'mineen, using foul language against Amirul Mu'mineen. Imam Hassan is saying nothing. He should have caught him, grabbed him, his collar, and he should have slit his, head. This is how we get so upset, right? Imam Hassan did not do anything. When he came to a point where their paths were becoming different, he said, brother, why don't you accompany to me? Why don't you come to my home? Do you have a debt? Can I pay your debt? I have some money, I can pay your debt. If you come with me, I would like to be your host. And this is how he takes him and turns around a person. This is a way of guiding. This is how Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi Anil Munkar is done. If we look at the seerah of Masumin, and then when we even look at the seerah of Amirul Mu'mineen, even when Khawarij would curse Imam Ali, would accuse Imam Ali of kufr, while Imam Ali is Khalifa and sitting in Masjid Kufa, and the companions draw their swords to kill that person, Imam says, stop, you don't have a right. You cannot do anything. If he has done or said anything, it was to me, and I have the right to respond, and I would respond appropriately. Even upon the assassination and martyrdom of Imam Ali, what Imam Ali did? If you look at the will of Imam Ali says that I am the one who would take qisas if I live. But if I don't live, ensure that you strike one strike, because you have the right as my warasa, as those who are inheriting me, you have the right to make one strike as he, Ibn Muljim, had struck me. Nothing more than that. However, if I live, I shall be the owner of my own affairs, and and the Imam says, forgiveness gets us closer to Allah, closer to God, and I shall prefer forgiveness. This is what Imam Ali is saying to his assassin. This is how those who are divinely guided would interact and transform people. But those who are not, obviously, they will only cause more misery than really making Islam proud. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now today, I want to share with you how Amr bil Ma'ruf should be done in proper place and proper time. Timing is also important, and place has to be appropriate. This is another problem. Some people, they read a little bit about Islam, and then suddenly they feel they are entitled to say anything and everything wherever they want at their own disposal. And it causes more harm than good. When you ask them, brother, why did you say so? Oh, brother, it is halal. This is exactly what it is. I'm just telling what Islam says. But it has to be proper time and proper place. You cannot do that. It does not serve the cause. You need to ensure that the person who is receptive to your message, he's receptive to your message. If he just pushes it back, what is the point? You have not given him that ma'rifah or that knowledge that was necessary. You did not lay groundwork for it, and you suddenly expect fruit out of it. It's not going to happen. If you sow a seed into a ground which is hard, would you have a tree coming out from it? No. You see all these, farmers plowing their land, tilting their land so that the land becomes softened, and it has the fertilizer, it is fertile, and then your seed can work. Otherwise, it becomes a waste. Now, for this, I want to share the same person I talked to you about 2 nights ago, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas is the person, like I told you last time also, that Sa'd had the honor of receiving the dua from the Holy Prophet himself. And the Prophet of Allah, because Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was a good shooter in his arrows, the Prophet says, Allahumma saddid ramaitahu wa ajib da'watahu. Oh Allah, make his arrows the target of enemy of Islam and accept his du'as and his prayers. This is what the Prophet of Allah had said about Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. Okay, but this honor made Sa'd a proud person. Then Sa'd was amongst the committee of the council of 6 members that the second Khalifa had appointed for choosing the third Khalifa from that council. So Sa'd started feeling that he also have the ability and the capacity to be the Khalifa. Although he was not made Khalifa at that time, but when Imam Ali became Khalifa, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas did not do the bay'ah, allegiance. He did not pay allegiance on the hands of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was Katibe Wahi, or the Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was the writer of the letters that the Prophet of Allah had sent to the Jews on behalf of Islam. All this, credential Sa'd had. But after the Holy Prophet, Sa'd became proud to the extent when Imam Ali became the Khalifa, he did not do the bay'ah of Imam Ali. Sa'd had knowledge. Sa'd had influence. These were the things, you remember I talked to you about. Sa'd had the knowledge of Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar. Sa'd had the influence. He exercised heavy influence amongst Muslims, being such and such a companion. But he did not act on time. When the time of Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar was ripe, Sa'd did not act. I'm skipping a lot of things that I wanted to say. Saad clearly knew that Ali ibn Abi Talib is the Khalifa that was chosen by the people and is the Khalifa that was designated by Rasulullah. From both aspects, Imam Ali was the uncontested ruler. What does Quran says? Quran says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu ati'ullah wa ati'ur rasul wa ulil amri minkum. O you who have faith, obey Allah and obey the Prophet and those who are vested with authority. Obey them. Saad knew this. This was the verse of Quran, Surah Nisa, verse 59. Even today this verse is misused by tyrannical regimes, justifying their rule by saying Quran says that we are the ones who are vested in authority, therefore you have to obey us. And unfortunately, our brothers in other madhahib, they obey, justifying, yes brother, we know those guys are bad, but the Prophet of Allah had said, and Quran says, Ati'ullah wa ati'ur rasul wa ulil amri minkum, and these are ulil amr, these are the people who are vested in authority, therefore we obey them. That is not the criteria, my dear brothers and sisters. That is mixing truth with falsehood. Because there are other places when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had vested someone with authority, He showed the criteria that is required for that authority to exercise that power. Surah, the verse that referred to Hazrat Ibrahim, when Abraham was tested by Allah, and when Abraham fulfilled and passed the test, Quran says, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ وَكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ قَالَ إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا. Quran says that when Abraham cleared the test that was given by Allah, Allah declared Abraham that inni ja'aluka linnasi imama, I am making you the imam, the leader, the authority and the ruler of people. Hazrat Ibrahim, what does he do? He immediately asks Allah, wa min zurriyati, oh Allah, is this authority is going to be transferred in my progeny? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, la yanalu ahadiz zalimin. O Ibrahim, be aware that this position of imama would not be transferred in your zurriya who are oppressors and who are sinners. However, I shall transfer it to you, but those who are oppressors, those who commit sin, they shall not have this authority. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas is all aware of all these things, and yet he declined for doing bay'ah. Now, if you remember what I had said, what I'm trying to prove, that Saad had the knowledge and influence but did not act on time. Acting it on time is also very, very important. Timing is everything. I have been in this area in 90s, and there were some very, very good technologies that emerged, and they died because they came before their time. Okay, there was an operating system, I remember, OS2, I think, that IBM had built, which used to do multitasking and this and that, but it was a memory hog, and memory was very expensive, and the OS died because it came before its time. And there are many other examples of many other technologies that have been, that have come here before time, and they died because they did not come at the right time. Saad also did not act at the right time. Later on, Saad tries to do something, but that would not compensate for the loss that he had created, or the void that he had created in Islam. Now, when I say this, what had happened in the history is that Amir-e-Sham, the ruler of Sham, Saad seeks to meeting him. Saad meets him, And the ruler of Sham, the father of Yazid, Lanatullah alayh, he says to his companions, when Saad comes in, you remember I shared a hadith in which Saad declined from doing SABA shitam, meaning that Saad declined from using foul language against Imam Ali publicly. And then he said, Imam Ali, I cannot do this, but because Ali had all this awsaf, these attributes that Ali had from, and I have heard directly from Prophet of Allah, if this would have been, one of those would have been for me, it would have been better than having all the best camels that Arabia possessed. Here, this narration is from Sheikh Tusi's Amali, where he narrates that Amir-e-Sham, the ruler of Sham, the father of Yazid, came to Medina, and in the holy city of Medina, Saad himself wanted to meet him. So the ruler told his companions, Saad is not conceding and he is not using foul language against Ali ibn Abi Talib, so make sure that he does when he comes. So they prep, like, if you go and meet a big leader, you are prepped by the people who sort of escort you. When you go there, you need to make sure you do this and do that sort of a thing. And when he sees, and then he says, now he's expecting that he would use bad words against Imam Ali, and when he does not, the ruler himself says, I thought you wanted to say something to me. Meaning that, why aren't you telling me, why aren't you cursing Ali? I would like to hear that. So no, I know that you are loyal to me and not loyal to Ali ibn Abi Talib. When he says this, the narration says that tears started rolling out from the eyes of Saad. Why are you crying? He asked, why are you crying? What is the reason? He is the murderer of your brother Usman. This is how the ruler says. The third Khalifa was murdered, and the accusation was coming upon Imam Ali only to create fitna, to create corruption, to create disunity in the ummah. This was the accusation. So he is sort of enticing Saad that the third Khalifa was your relative, and he, Ali ibn Abi Talib, had murdered him. Why don't you curse him? What is wrong with you? And Saad is crying in front of the ruler or the father of Yazid. So he says, tell me, what is it? Why are you crying? So Saad says that we left Mecca to immigrate. We migrated and arrived to the masjid of the Holy Prophet. And we took our night and day's nap in this masjid until suddenly, this whole story that when the Masjid Nabawi was made, the Prophet's mosque was made in Medina, the doors of all the companions would open into the courtyard of the masjid. And one day, the Prophet of Allah asked all the companions to stop or to close the doors of the doors that open inside of masjid, inside of the mosque, except for Imam Ali. And Saad is quoting this, that in the Masjid Nabawi, one fine day, suddenly the Prophet of Allah said, close all your doors. Nobody can open their door inside of the masjid except for Ali ibn Abi Talib, except for Imam Ali. And we became very, very anxious as companions. What has happened? Did we do something wrong? Is Allah angry with us? Why has the Prophet of Allah commanded us that our doors should be closed and we should come from outside through the entrance of masjid and not directly from our homes? And why is it that only for Ali ibn Abi Talib the door is open? So we did not have the courage to go and speak to the Prophet, Saad says. So we approached one of the wives of the Holy Prophet, and we said, can you go and please ask the Holy Prophet, what is the matter? Why can't we have our doors open? And why is it that Ali ibn Abi Talib's door is open in the masjid? When the Prophet hears this, he says, La wallahi ma ana akhrajtuhum wala ana askantuhu. I swear by Allah, I am not the one who had thrown them out or taken them out or closed their doors, nor I have asked Ali to remain and keep his door open. Balillahu akhrajahum wa askana Ali. But rather, it is Allah who had asked them to close their doors, and Allah has commanded that the door of Ali ibn Abi Talib be open inside of the masjid. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. In front of whom Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas is saying this? In front of the worst enemy of Imam Ali alayhi salam, the biggest conspirator, who comes from Shajarai Mal'una, the cursed tree, who comes from Shajarai Qabisa, the bad tree, the corrupted tree. In front of him, Sa'd is praising Imam Ali. This is the same Sa'd who did not do the bay'ah, who did not appreciate what Imam Ali was offering to Ummah by establishing justice. So although Sa'd is doing Amr bil Maruf and Nahi Anil Munkar, but the timing is wrong. Imam Ali is already martyred. Imam Ali is not alive, and the enemies of Islam prevailed, the hypocrites prevailed and have taken the reins of power, and that power translated or trickled down into the tragedy of Karbala. Had Imam Ali, if Imam Ali would have been successful by the support of all these people to establish justice in the land, Karbala would not have happened. So Sa'd became a partner in their crime by not doing Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi Anil Munkar when the time demanded it and when the place demanded it. If it's not done, then the time has gone, the place has gone, now it's too late. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. There is another narration again from Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas of Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi Anil Munkar with the ruler of Sham, Amir-e-Sham. This is also quite interesting, in which this is from Sharh Nahjul Balagha of Ibn Abil Hadid Mu'tazili, who was a Sunni scholar who did the commentary of Nahjul Balagha, peak of eloquence, the collection of sermons and sayings and letters of Imam Ali alayhi salam that was compiled by Sayyid Razi. And there he talks about that again Amir-e-Sham wanted to meet Sa'd. And I'm cutting short the whole conversation so that I can get to the point where Sa'd is standing in front of Amir-e-Sham, and Amir-e-Sham is calling himself Amirul Mu'mineen when he was Amirul Munafiqeen. He was calling himself Amirul Mu'mineen. Amirul Mu'mineen is the leader of believers. And Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas declines from saying Amirul Mu'mineen to the father of Yazid. And the father of Yazid is very, very upset. And he says, if you wanted, you could have said what you have not said, that is Amirul Mu'mineen to me. Even today, even though there are other madhahib who revere this person, who honor this person, but they don't call him Amirul Mu'mineen. Even they don't call him Amirul Mu'mineen, because he was forcefully trying that. So you could have told me, you could have called me Amirul Mu'mineen. So Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas again now standing up, he says, but you are not my Amirul Mu'mineen. I don't consider you to be my Amirul Mu'mineen. He's standing in front of Imamun Ja'ir. He's standing in front of a ruthless ruler, and he's telling Kalimatul Haq. He's talking about the truth, but the timing is all wrong. The time has already passed. So, he says that we are mu'mineen who have not accepted you as Amir. And then he goes off on and on. So Amir Sham replies and says to him, O Abu Ishaq, that was the kunya of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, I have spilled more blood. Sa'd actually says that, I would not call you Amir because even the position that you have acquired, becoming the Khalifa, if I have to spill this much blood, the blood that you use, that cupping process called hajama. Hajama is one of those things in Islamic tradition you allow. So the narration says how much blood that comes in that hajama, even if that blood with injustice needed to be spilled so I can become the ruler, I would not do so to become the ruler, and you have done that. So the father of Yazid starts laughing and he says, Oh Abu Ishaq, I have spilled a lot of blood. What are you talking about? And I have spilled a lot more blood than Ali ibn Abi Talib. Okay? So the whole conversation is like, chill, come sit down with me and let's talk. And now they are talking. He says, why didn't you, why didn't you take sides in the battle of Jamal? If you know the battle of the camel that took place, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas did not take any side. Or the battle of the other battles that took place, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas always tried to show I am neutral, I don't have any position, and he did not help Imam Ali alayhi salam. So this guy is asking, why didn't you do that? So he says that I wanted to be a neutral party, both in the battle of Jamal and also in the battle of Siffin. So he says, why would you want to do something like that? You were the companion of the Prophet. So Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas replies and says, I was like a person confronted with darkness, and one of them was telling to his camel, ich. Like I'm a person, I don't know which way to go, and I'm just holding on to my camels. That's a, what do you call, a phrase that Arabs would use. Ich, I would say. So I'm just keeping my camel engaged, but I'm not moving anywhere because it's dark, I cannot move forward. This was my state. And now the father of Yazid starts quoting the verses of Holy Quran to remind Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, why did he not take the position? He starts reciting the verses of Al-Hujarat, wa in ta'ifatan min al-mu'minin ikhtatalu fa aslihu baynahuma. If two groups of believers, if they fight amongst themselves, then you should come in between to establish peace amongst both of them. This is the verse of Quran. فَإِن بَغَتْ إِحْدَاهُمَا عَلَى الْأُخْرَى فَقَاتِلُوا الَّتِي تَبْغِي حَتَّى تَفِعَ إِلَى أَمْرِ اللَّهِ. But if one party of them aggresses and is not willing to come together, then fight the one which is aggressive. Fight them until they return towards Allah, to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَإِن فَاعَتْ فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَهُمَا بِالْعَدْلِ وَأَقْسِطُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُقْسِطِينَ. Then if they return, make peace between both of these parties with justice and with fairness. Why? Because indeed Allah loves those who are just. The father of Yazid is, putting Sa'd on the spot and saying, these were the two warring factions in the battle of Jamal. In the battle of Siffin, there were two warring factions. You could have come to reform and bring both of them together, and one of them would continue to fight. You were supposed to be fighting with the ones who continues to fight until both of them concede, and then when both of them concede, ensure that you establish this relationship with peace and justice, because Allah loves peace and justice. Quran verses are very, very clear. If you take these verses, apply this today in this time with the battle that is going on in Yemen and other places, it's the same thing. Muslims know there is no, ambiguity in these verses. And Sa'd says, I swear by Allah, you have not fought with both of these. The ruler of Sham, the father of Yazid, is saying, I swear by Allah, you have not fought with both of these. the one who oppressed and the one who was being oppressed. You were not party to either of them. You did not take any side. Saad says, he starts protesting and says, how can I do that? How can I fight someone to whom the Prophet of Allah had said, Ya Ali anta be minni be manzilati Harun bin Musa illa annahu la nabiyya ba'di. Saad is considering and he says, what are you telling me? How can I fight Ali? On the other side was the mother of believers, and this side is Ali in the battle of Jamal, and the Prophet of Allah had said, Ya Ali anta minni be manzilati Harun min Musa. Oh Ali, your station to me is that of Harun to Musa. Illa annahu la nabiyya ba'di. Except for that, after me there is not going to be a prophet. And now the father of Yazid says, O Saad, were you the only person who heard this hadith, or there are other narrators? Saad starts counting, oh, the wives of the Holy Prophet, this companion, that companion. He names all of these people. They all have heard. Now the father of Yazid starts spilling his lies and his hypocrisy and nifaq. And he says, if I would have heard from the Prophet, I would have never fought Ali ibn Abi Talib. Although he came in Siffin and fought Imam Ali. He says, if I would have heard this narration, I would not have fought. So you see, my dear brothers and sisters, if you do not say it in the time that was appropriate, it means nothing. Imam Ali was martyred, and the ruler, the father of Yazid, was able to prevail by paying off people who were bought by the money from Islamic treasury, and then he oppressed all of them all their life. And some of those lieutenants he had, like the father of Ibn Ziyad, Ziyad ibn Abi. Ziyad ibn Abi was the father of Ibn Ziyad. Ziyad ibn Abi means Ziyad, the son of unknown father. And Ziyad ibn Abi, these were tyrants. They had caused death of thousands and thousands of Muslims. And the reason the people of Kufa were fearful of Ibn Ziyad was because of the terror that was caused by his father Ziyad ibn Abi. All this happened, Karbala happened, and Saad ibn Abi Waqqas did not exercise Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So you see the importance of Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar, my dear brothers and sisters, when Imam Hussein is saying in the Karbala that my movement is all about Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar. If we are tracing the footsteps of Imam Hussein, we need to recognize what is Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar. We need to create that cloud that we could be influential. We need to ensure that we do this in present or future. We need to have the message which is receptive and acceptable by others, and conduct Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar if we are truly the followers of Imam Hussein. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. That's why the companions that Imam Hussein had were very, very few. The companions that our Imam had were few who recognized the mission of the Imam, who recognized the objectives of Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar. Although it would cost them with their lives, they were willing to sacrifice their lives but not oppress other. Be Mazloom, be the one who have been oppressed, but not be Zalim, the one who oppresses. And in this caravan of martyrdom, my dear and sisters, not only Imam Hussein's companions were there, even the children of Imam Hussein were alongside of Imam Hussein. My dear brothers and sisters, today is 7th of Muharram. It has already gone past. You know, if you take your hearts into Karbala, you would realize that what Ahlul Bayt are going through, my dear brothers and sisters. Narrations say that it was 7th of Muharram, since the cries of children, Al-Atash, Al-Atash, started in the camps of Ahlul Bayt. It was 7th of Muharram since the shortage of water had already been initiated, and the maqatil, the narrations of the tragedy of Karbala, they quote that from the camps of Imam Hussein, their cries of their children causing al-atash, oh thirst, we are thirsty. We could hear all those cries. My dear brothers and sisters, let us not feel shy to mourn on Imam Hussein. There are numerous narrations from the Holy Prophet how those who would cry for Imam Hussein, how Allah would forgive their sins and how Allah would soften their hearts, how Allah is going to ensure that they do not see any tragedy or hardships in their lives, because they are the ones who are fulfilling the desire that Sayyida Fatima had when she heard the narration from Rasulullah, when the Prophet of Allah said that, "Oh Fatima, I have been told by Jibreel that your son Hussein is going to be martyred on the day of Ashura, and while that is going to happen, oh Fatima, I am not going to be there. Ali ibn Abi Talib is not going to be there." And Hazrat Fatima says, "Oh my beloved Badab, oh my beloved father, if that is the case, who is going to mourn the death of my son? Who is going to be the martyr? Who is going to be the greatest sacrifice? Who is going to be the Zibh Azim?" Rasulullah says, "Oh my beloved daughter, my ummah, the men of my ummah would mourn the men of Hussein and his camp, and the women of my ummah and the children of my ummah would mourn the children and the women of Imam Hussein." My dear brothers and sisters, tonight we are going to mourn the martyrdom of the orphan of Hassan Mushtaba, the second Imam. It is Qasim ibn Hassan. Oh my dear brothers and sisters, Qasim ibn Hassan is not very old. He is so young, and still he would want to be eagerly sacrificing his life. He is one of those martyrs whose statement is recorded in the history of Ashura, where Qasim was asked, "Oh Qasim, tell us, how do you consider death?" And Qasim says, "Ahla min asal." It is tastier and sweeter than honey. This is how Qasim considers death. Qasim, on the path of Sirat-e Mustaqim, on the path of righteousness, would give his life lovingly, happily. And Qasim ibn Hassan, a 12-year-old son of Imam Hassan, keeps coming to Imam Hussein on the day of Ashura, seeking his permission to fight in the way of Allah and to sacrifice his life. How can Imam Hussein permit the orphan of his older brother? Imam Hussein would say, "No Qasim, you cannot do this. You are the son of my brother Hassan." And my dear brothers and sisters, let me remind you, while Imam Hassan was departing from this world and Imam Hussein comes, while Imam Hassan is vomiting blood, Imam Hussein is crying, and Imam Hassan realizes that his younger brother Hussein is crying. He stops him by saying, "Oh my beloved brother, La yawmaka yawma ya Aba Abdullah." Oh my beloved Hussein, there is no other day like your day. This is easy what I am undergoing on the verge of death. How you are going to confront death? Imam Hassan had written a wasiyah to his son, had said, "Oh beloved Qasim, if there is any hardship in your life that you are not able to solve, make sure that you open this letter." And when Imam Hassan's son Qasim realizes that I am trying to sacrifice my life and I would seek permission, and Aba Abdullah is not giving me permission, he realizes and remembers this and opens up, and he sees it's a letter which is referred to his uncle Hussein. He happily takes this letter to Imam Hussein and says, "Oh my beloved uncle, this is a letter from my father that he had given me and said, if there is hardship, you you shall open this. When Imam Hussein sees this letter, Imam starts crying. Imam kisses the letter and opens up the letter to find that Imam Hassan is addressing Imam Hussein and saying, "Oh my beloved Hussein, I will not be there in Karbala. As a sacrifice, I would like you to give permission to Qasim so he can sacrifice himself on behalf of me." Imam Hussein could not stop Qasim from going into the battlefield. Imam Hussein dresses up Qasim, but the armors were so big, my dear brothers and sisters, and Qasim was so small that the armor would not fit. So Qasim went into the battlefield with mere clothing, without a steel armor that every fighter would take when he is going into the battlefield. Hazrat Abbas is his teacher in the skills of battlefield. Qasim goes into the battlefield and he shows his bravery. He shows the bravery of Haydar Karrar. He shows the bravery of Fateh Khaybar. But Umar ibn Saad cries to his army and says, "What has happened to you? This child is coming towards my tent. This is not a normal child. This is the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib. This is the son of the bravest man in Arabia. Ensure that you surround him and attack him." And the enemy attacked from all sides. How long can Qasim fight? There came a time that Qasim fell from his horse and he calls upon his uncle, "Oh my beloved uncle, come for my help." The moment Imam Hussein hears the help or the call of help from Qasim, Imam Hussein along with Abbas, along with Ali Akbar, head towards the battlefield, and the enemy seeing Hussein and his companions coming towards them starts running away from the battlefield, and Qasim ibn Hassan is on the ground, and the horses move from this side to other side, and the ground is filled with blood. Only Imam Hussein arrives to see Qasim had already passed away. Imam says, "Oh Qasim, you called upon for help and your uncle was unable to come and help you." سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. We ask you, Allah, on account of the martyrdom of Hazrat Qasim, give inspiration and tawfiq to be steadfast on Islam to our youth. We ask you, Allah, to protect life, honor, property and dignity of believers wherever they are. We ask you, Allah, if the enemies of Islam are worthy of guidance, please guide them, otherwise destroy them and humiliate them. We ask you, Allah, to cure those who are sick in our community. We ask you, Allah, especially a brother is sick, Athar Nakhwi is sick. May Allah, on account of our Sayyid Sajjad, our fourth Imam, cure all those mu'mineen who are sick. We ask you, Allah, to forgive those who have passed away from our community. We ask you, Allah, to hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our age and make us such that the Imam of our time would be pleased with us. Matam Hussein, Ya 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 Hussein. Please everyone come.